AIG's board tomorrow morning is going to be deciding whether or not to join a $20 billion lawsuit against the government for rescuing the company. Let me just explain. Here's why. Taxpayers profited from the deal. That may surprise you, but it is true. Frankly, it surprised a whole lot of people in the financial world who thought it would never happen. They did. Now, that's the $22.7 billion that was just mentioned in that ad. But shareholders, including AIG's former boss, Hank Greenberg, say taxpayers profited because the deal terms weren't fair. Michael Waldman is president of the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU School of Law. Stephen Moore, senior economics writer for the Wall Street Journal editorial page. Okay, so Michael, let me just start with this. The Treasury ended up owning almost all of AIG. Right. Nobody thought they were going to pay this money back, so they shocked everybody by doing so. But the lawsuit says you can't take private property for public use without just compensation. That's the Fifth Amendment. They're saying the compensation was not just. You're a lawyer. Does AIG have a case?
I'm a lawyer and a taxpayer, and this is the legal, technical Latin term for this would be chutzpah if they did bring this suit. The bottom line is the board of AIG, in the middle of this financial calamity, had a choice. They could take the bailout, or the value of their shares, as you said, would vanish, and shareholders would be left with nothing. Okay. So they chose the bailout. They don't actually have to bring this suit, and I'd be, frankly, quite surprised if they did. Hank Greenberg, as you know, was the former CEO. He was forced out. He's sort of disgruntled anyway.
He feels such a personal connection to this.
He's making a presentation to their board saying, you need to join this suit. They may feel they have a legal obligation to hear him out, but they don't have a legal obligation to do it, and they're even allowed to kind of snicker behind their hands at the time.
An unfortunate timing of the ad. Stephen, let me ask you this, because the lawsuit contends the government's a loan shark. Right. The lawsuit that Hank Greenberg for charging.
Said that many times.
Here was the interest rate, 14.5%. Now, a lot of people watching might say, all right, if I didn't know it was AIG and it was me, I would think that was a loan shark rate. But, you know, just looking at the effective rate at that time to even borrow money for companies that were rated poorly but not horribly, i.e. companies in better shape than AIG, they were borrowing at 18%.
Right.
So the way I see it is 14.5% was a steal. What do you mean you didn't get just compensation?
All right, well, Aaron, I'm a taxpayer too, and I don't like bailouts very much, and I didn't like this one. I think, and look, it certainly smells bad, and it certainly seems ungrateful to taxpayers that there's this lawsuit. But let's look at what they're basically alleging. The shareholders are saying, look, we might have come out better in bankruptcy if we'd gone through a formal bankruptcy hearing, that our shares might have been worth more than they were in this case, and that they never really actually got to vote on this because the government took over 80% control of the organization. And so that's the allegation, is that shareholders' interests weren't really fully protected.
So
here.
I think that's crazy. I have to say, having covered that,
Right.
I think that AIG, I mean, the whole financial system could have crashed. I mean, those guys are lucky to have gotten anything. I mean, that's one person's opinion from covering that story.
Right. I mean, but you never really know. And I think they're making the case, you know, if we'd gone through a normal bankruptcy proceeding, that it wouldn't, the value of the shares wouldn't have gone down to zero. And who knows? But that's their allegation.
Okay. I know you don't like bailouts, so you have to say that. I think that's crazy.
The gumption of arguing that. The fact is, we all saw it in real time. Yeah. This wasn't a normal company in a normal situation. That might have been the case. But this was the world, the AIG and the world financial system hurtling toward oblivion. And there's a really, really powerful, lengthy opinion by Judge Engelmeyer, very well-respected federal judge, which dismissed this case very witheringly, and said that the allegations made by Mr. Greenberg read like they were in an Oliver Stone movie, it's pretty clear that, you know, look, the board of directors had an obligation to act on behalf of the company and the shareholders, but they were in their power, it would seem, to say that the shareholders would benefit from the bailout as opposed to the nuclear explosion.
And one final point, Stephen, is this going to open up the door to newly sworn-in Senator Elizabeth Warren, who hates AIG?
Not my favorite senator.
All right, she's on the banking committee. She said the government provides an ongoing stealth bailout even now to AIG with special tax breaks. So AIG, even if they don't join this suit and they're saying thank you and they paid everything back with interest, they're now suddenly in the spotlight again. Does this mean Elizabeth Warren is going to get a green light.
Special interest tax breaks she's talking about. I don't like corporate loopholes any more than anybody does. We talked about this last night on your show, so we'll see if they're there. But this is going to be a very difficult case for AIG to win, both in court and in the court of public opinion.
If this gets before Congress, you're going to finally see a return of bipartisanship, because they're all.
You may be right about that one.
You know what? If this is what it takes, then I'll take it.
But the big winner here actually was the federal government. I mean, the federal government actually made a lot of money on this transaction. And I think that's actually one of the cases
Paulson
that...
and Tim Geithner, in the darkest moments when people didn't think they could get money out of the ATM, put terms that we made money on. That's something to be lauded. All right, out front next, President Obama's